So, you know what's crazy? I completely forgot that you did careers. I thought it was a different, especially when you mentioned tech sales. I'm not going to say any other names, but I thought it was a different boot camp that you did. And yeah, for those of y'all that don't know, careers does have a tech sales program. I know a bunch of people that have done their tech sales program. But yeah, that's actually like kind of like a little bit of a plot twist for me to hear that. And that's low key why I like just not like asking a bunch of questions ahead of time, because I like to really hear the story and hear the testimony and hear like certain pieces that can kind of catch me off guard a bit. So, all right, so you finished it in April. You said you hit the ground running right away. So you said it was the end of April when you finished. You hit the ground running right away with applying, with interviewing, and yeah, like you touched on, you said, yo, it's like a real list of questions for like tech interviews. It's not like most other interviews with other jobs. It's like being interviewed with tech companies is like slightly different, at least in my opinion. Like, would you say that was your experience too?
I remember one of the first interviews I did was with Gartner, and the hiring manager got on and she was like, okay, for the next hour we're going to, and I was like, in my head I was like, hour? What are we going to talk about for an hour? But we were literally on the interview for an hour. Like, she was asking me question after question. We did a role play. Oh my goodness. It was just, and I would literally be leaving interviews. I literally held everything in. I was so nervous. So I would leave and my armpits were like sweating because I was just like holding all the nervous energy in. But you literally were on interviews for an hour and you're doing at least 3 rounds of interviews. So you meet with the recruiter initially. Normally it's the hiring manager second, and then third, it's whoever else is on the team that they want to see, that wants to talk to whoever the, prospects are. So it's no joke. Some days I would literally have like 4 interviews. It was one day I had 4 interviews back to back. And then I had to remember, okay, I'm in the 2nd round for this job. I'm in the 3rd round for this job. This is my recruiter interview for this round, for this job. And so
So you were just doing all this off of memory. You didn't have like a spreadsheet or anything that you was keeping track. You were just Oh yeah. So
I didn't have a spreadsheet. What I would do is I have like a dry erase calendar. So I would write like 1st round interview for this company, 2nd round for this company at this time. That was the only thing, but I did not have a spreadsheet. Like, I definitely did not have a spreadsheet. I probably should have done it with the amount of interviews that I did, but I didn't. I just kept track, and I think that's also why I was so exhausted, because I was interviewing, I was applying, I was in literally, you have to have no shame, especially in this tech portion, because the way I got this job is I messaged this random lady on LinkedIn who worked for HubSpot, and I was like, hey, she was somebody else active on LinkedIn, and I said, hey, do you know the hiring or the recruiter for the BDR position? I'm looking. She gave me an internal referral, and that's how I got the interview. And the crazy thing is, the week I received my offer letter, she was leaving HubSpot. So yeah, so all of this is so divine, because I was like, God literally had her there to just get me in, and she was on her way out. Yeah. Wow. I was just like, why are you leaving and I'm just coming in?
Yo, that's wild.
Yeah.
That is wild. That timing is crazy, because had she left a week sooner, then she might not have been able to make sure that you got your offer letter. Yo, that's incredible timing. Wow, that's dope. You know what I love? Someone said in the comments a minute ago, they say, yo, this sounds intense, talking about like your process with applying, with interviewing, just kind of all of that. And I agree, but I actually love this story, because one of the things I've noticed is that I think I haven't done the best job of communicating to people. Like, I try to do a better job of it now, but communicating to people like, yo, no, it's like, it takes real work to get a job in tech. It's like, and that's why a lot of people hit me up and they're like, not wanting to do a boot camp. They're like, yo, I don't want to do a boot camp. I don't have a degree. I don't have none of this stuff. I just want to get a job in tech. And I'm like, well, look, it's possible, but it's so competitive that if you are just coming in off the streets with nothing to show, they could kind of be like, it's a lot of people applying with boot camp certifications. There's people applying with degrees. It's people applying that have already worked in tech. So it's like, to hear the fact that you did a boot camp, but it still was such a grind, but also to hear the grind, I think it just really puts into perspective, like, yo, people aren't handing out 6-figure careers just to be like, they're not just giving them out. It's like, no, like,
yeah,
it's a grind to get it.
And I think, and one of my friends who I'm helping right now, like with the sales position, or, you know, trying to see how I can help her with it, I was like, look, you have to put in the work. This is not get on, apply, and then interviews are going to happen. Most of the interviews that I got was because I hit up the recruiter on LinkedIn. It was like, hey, I applied to such and such position. Are you the person I speak to, or who do I speak to about getting an interview? And most people are just like, hey, I love your proactiveness, so I'm going to give you an interview. Like, and from there, it's on me to kill it in the interview. But for the most part, it wasn't because they picked my resume or my application out of all of the applications that they got from other people. And so, you know, it is intense, but I think for me, I was in such a mode of like, first of all, I paid all this money for this boot camp. I was going to get a job in tech. I don't care who I had to wrangle to get it. I was really going to get a job in tech, because there's just so many things we've done before. I've paid money for things before where I didn't get what I needed to get out of it. But for this, I had a mindset of, I've paid a lot of money for this. I sacrificed for this. I really sacrificed for this. I'm on my real job in a class, in another class, you know, trying to get another career. And so there was just certain things for me I was willing to sacrifice. So I was willing to, I'm not that person. I'm really usually that person that feels like I'm going to walk up to somebody and say, hey, can you blah, blah, blah. I'm usually not that person. But in this, I was like, I'm going to be shameless. I'm going to message whoever. I had my template for what I just, regular stuff I wrote to recruiters. All I did was change out their names, copy and paste. Hey, I'm applying to such and such position. These are my qualifications. I took a boot camp for tech sales. This is what I'm doing proactively. You know, what can I do to get an interview? It was literally a same template, just change out the recruiter's name and copy and paste. So as soon as I applied, I would send them a message. So it can be a grind, but it's also the same thing you got to do in your job. This is corporate. This is not, you know, of course I work for government, and everybody knows government jobs, you know, there's some days you can go in and you can kind of chill. You don't, I mean, honestly, you don't, you know, if you don't feel like working today, I could do this work tomorrow. In sales especially, every day is a grind, because you're trying to meet your quota. You want that commission check above what your base pay is. And so there's just a different type of mindset that you have to have. So, I mean, for me, I was willing to put in the work to get the job that I wanted, and also the company that I wanted, because HubSpot is not
HubSpot is a big deal.
Yeah, it's not no reeky, you know, like company like HubSpot, especially being at HubSpot now and realizing who we are in the space that we're in the CRM space, in the marketing automation space that we're in. Like, we are a big deal. And so, I'm grateful to God. I really am, because this was nothing but him.
That's incredible. I usually encourage like guests to not share what company that they're at, because usually what ends up happening is that people, like buku people, will hear the company that the person works at, and then they'll start applying to the company. But HubSpot is such a big company that it's like, you could say that you work there and people could apply all day and all night, and it's like they're so big, they get so many applications. So that's pretty normal. And if they do a boot camp, they're gonna hear about HubSpot anyway. It's like you said, they're such a big deal. For people that don't know, there are like kind of different tiers of tech companies. There are the tech companies that people call them like unicorns, or there are the unicorn companies, or the FANG or main companies, the Meta, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. Those are like the top companies. Right below those tier of those top companies are the HubSpots, the Salesforces, the Zoom, you know, those types of companies that we're all pretty familiar with as well. And then after that, there are still some really big companies that most people have never heard about. And then under that are the companies, like the first company I started at, Dialpad. And then under that, there's like the real small startup companies. So to be at HubSpot, that's a big dog tech company. That's really huge. I don't even think I applied to big tech companies like that, because I was like, yo, they ain't even gonna worry about me. But I love the fact that you wanted to be there. You put in the work, you put in the effort, you know, not just applying, but you hitting up the recruiters, the hiring managers, you know, those things are super important. I mean, again, Shanae's here in the comments. She talks about that a lot. She talked about that on the podcast. You know, that's something I encourage people a lot to do. And I love how, because I was wondering earlier when you were talking about how many interviews you did, I was a bit curious because I was like, dang, how did you do so many interviews? But now it makes sense because you weren't just applying, you were doubling it. And that was something when I finished the boot camp, I didn't really reach out to too many recruiters until I would say maybe 3 weeks before I got a job. And so we see the value in that. And so I hope anyone that's working to get in tech, whether you did a boot camp or college or you got some transferable skills, that y'all are really taking to heart what she said. Because I had somebody on here a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago, it was a homeboy of mine, and he wasn't getting a lot of interviews. Now he's in tech now, he got a job, but I love the fact that you got so many interviews, because it's good to like get that training and get